Hi everyone, and welcome to Worth the Calories, a Great British Bake Off podcast. I'm Matthew Vose.
And I'm Catherine Vose.
So we're here with Bread Week. Before we bread pun into it.
Before we need to get started.
Before we score into this week's episode. Nice. Just a reminder for everyone, we are doing a giveaway here at the Eloquent Gushing Podcast Network. If you mention us on Twitter to your followers and say, I listen to Worth the Calories, it's amazing, hashtag Worth the Calories, or you use hashtag PC Deprived, hashtag ATAV, hashtag SFPop, or at Desire Made Real, we'll enter you to win some exciting swag. Catherine, having now seen the swag, what swag can people win?
Well, just to prove how excited I am, I need to have some coasters, some stickers, and some awesome fridge magnets.
Nice. You can also enter if you review our shows. So jump onto Apple Podcasts or your podcast platform and app of choice and review us. Preferably a good review is always nice, but pop a review on there and then post a screenshot either on social media or to our email address, podcast@eloquentgushing.com, and we'll enter you. So we do 5 shows across the network. We do this one. We do Across the Arrowverse, where we talk about the Arrowverse shows. Pop Culture Deprived, where we watch movies for the first time. SF Pop, where we talk about Southern American culture in movies. And Desire Made Real, about Discovery of Witches.
Yay.
For you vampire, occult, mystical people. So go and review, go and mention on Twitter, and we'll enter you to win some exciting physical merch swag stuff.
Nice.
But we're here to talk about the Bake Off.
Yay, Bread Week. Bread Week, Bread Week. It's Bread Week.
You were very excited last week because this is a thing you can do and a thing you can use.
Yeah, burger Baps, come on. What is your favourite food?
Well, absolutely. I do like a burger and I like a bap. So.
Exactly. So if we can get good at burger Baps, that is most definitely a usable skill.
Absolutely.
I'm well up for that. She says, having just chomped her way through a fig roll, which could for me also become a usable skill.
And coming up later in the show, fig rolls. I thought it was a very low-key week. I feel like the challenges were all done to a reasonable amount of success.
Yep.
But part of that is the challenges perhaps weren't taxing, weren't bread pun difficult.
I think
I really should have thought up a lot
bread
of bread
pun
puns
difficult
before, shouldn't I? I should have just been like,
it wasn't rolling in challenge.
everyone rise to the challenge. I don't know. What did you...
Crust success.
What did you think of the challenges this week?
Oh, this is interesting because this is the week where I'm looking at all of the challenges and all the way through, and I spent the whole time going, oh, I'd like to have a go at that, and I'd like to have a go at that, which possibly does mean that things were maybe more achievable, because there ain't no way I'm having a go at a 7-layer veil glossy icing cake. So maybe, but I still think they were good challenges. Okay. I liked the fact that the technical was quite simple.
Right. Okay.
Simple in concept.
Yeah.
But possibly challenging in execution. Because again, I think it sort of they came together in a bit of a clump, but it showed it sort of showed the extremes. Like Henry's was very good.
Right.
And was it Amelia was at the bottom? With her 10% of dough missing.
Yeah.
Was very not good.
Yeah.
And I think that's potentially at this stage the right sort of way of doing the technical.
I think because as much as we don't want to watch anyone make a mistake, no one did badly throughout this. There were decisions they made about proving and baking for the wrong amount of times. And maybe 1 or 2 choices about flavours or fruit and fruit sizes, things along those lines. But by and large,
you just felt it was a bit too doable.
Yeah.
But half the time we end up saying that the only challenge is doing this under time pressure.
Yeah.
And I kind of appreciate that there were, I mean, I'm sure there was time pressure, but this week it didn't feel like people were falling apart because of the time pressure.
No.
It felt like they had an appropriate amount of time to do what they were being asked to do.
Yeah.
And I think it's that time pressure that gives us those car crashes, which might be why they put them under that amount of time pressure. So I don't know, I'm wondering if this week, it's not that the challenges were too easy.
Mm-hmm.
It's just that they didn't have the time pressure that they often have, and therefore, because they were given an appropriate amount of time, we didn't see the car crashes.
Yeah, and I think this is a thing to remember when we do have those ones where we think they'd all be okay if they gave them another 20, 30 minutes. Something like that. And so I suppose the other side of that then is there anyone who really went all out? On Cake Week, for instance, they might do, well, I'm doing 6 layers on my 3-layer cake, and I'm doing 5 flavours, and I'm doing... So they push it very far. Is it that there was more safety play going on in this?
Maybe, and I think also, especially in the showstopper, with the technique that was being pushed, being the scoring of the loaf... I think the ones that tried to do an unusual loaf for scoring with your fougasse, Henry.
Yeah.
There's a reason those are unusual loaves for scoring, because it doesn't work.
Yeah.
So it maybe it limited their scope for experimentation a little. I mean, I think Stephanie did quite a number of different breads in order to make up her flower bouquet.
Yeah.
So perhaps we could consider that as going all out.
Yeah.
I think Michelle, I mean, I don't think it was quite as successful, but I think Michelle did a number of different breads with her garden. I mean, her hedgehog was very different to some of the other ones.
And on a lot of them, they commented on the flavours.
Yeah.
So people were just making bread that would bake in the time.
Yeah,
that was the aim of it.
They were focusing on the visual rather than the taste, which
they did say that was going to be the thing of it. The decoration was where most of the scoring was going to be done.
But equally, if what was being commented on is you didn't put enough salt in your dough, well, putting a bit of extra more, seasoning your dough correctly should surely be a starting point.
Yeah, have it with some oil and balsamic.
Sea salt crystals.
Yeah, there you go. Right, let's have a talk about each of the challenges. Challenge 1 was a field tear and share. Could be sweet or savoury with yeasted dough.
I want to eat all of those. All of them.
You were commenting about all of them.
Especially the ones with cheese in. But yeah, I don't think any of them... Well, I don't know. After the judges' comments on Henry's, maybe I don't want to eat that. But they all looked great.
Yeah, the charcoal one was a bit odd. I could see that he was going for the checkerboard pattern.
Yes.
But no one else really went for that level of decoration. So...
Yeah, most of the rest on that first one went for taste.
Yeah.
Even where it left them with a slightly rustic...
Yeah. Styled nicely.
Yes.
And we'll come to the styled one, the star. But yeah. What would you have done? Do you have any thoughts on what a tear and share might have been?
Well, it would have involved cheese. I think it was Rosie, wasn't it? She did the Spanish cheese and chorizo, manchego and salami or whatever.
Chili,
which that appealed to me.
Okay.
That might be something that not whilst we're doing the technicals, but never know. If I have a spare weekend, I might swear at the oven a bit and produce a very burnt tear and share brioche loaf.
I like tear and share with some nice pasta. So yeah. Good shout. Okay. As much as we're saying no one was disastrous on this, I've got a few that did have some very negative comments. We did not see positive comments on them. You mentioned Henry.
Yep.
We had Alice. Very, very dry but good flavours. David, they seem to be okay with, but it's cinnamon and sugar. You can't go wrong. However, you need to chop up your fruit more.
Yep.
Helena was overbaked. And so Amelia was also chopping up the fruit more. So they really were getting into some of the complaints and issues on these, weren't they?
Yeah, I mean, I think they are looking for people not to produce something that I would be happy with, but to produce something that excels.
Okay. Is this because actually the baking was all done quite well on this? So it comes into, right, how has your taste gone? A couple of them have got comments are dry, but that's about it.
Certainly, there didn't, in that round, there didn't seem to be many people who'd completely mucked up their... we didn't have any underworked. I really can't do accents. I don't think he said underworked once.
No.
Which is a miracle for Bread Week.
Yeah. Overbaked was, I think, the thing that came across in that final round. The focaccia was a nice idea. Because focaccia is the one that I would think about for it. That's the one that I think was a really good idea. And they said beautiful.
Nice.
So that was good. But then you come to Michael, who made the star.
It was stunning, wasn't it?
Yeah, when you turn upside down, looks like a sort of Mandelbrot explosion. And then apparently was baked wonderfully and tasted wonderful. So good on him.
How did he come up with that? Absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it does show that there are some of them who will go, right, now I will twist things and I'll put them in shapes and I'll do interesting cuts and merging and all this. And some of them will go, right, I'll put it in the shape of a thing in a pan and then bake it that way.
Yeah.
So you're starting to see some of the skills coming out a little bit more.
Absolutely. I didn't think Michael had it in him. That was glorious.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, good on him. So, as ever, an okay opening round.
Yep.
Fine, sets the stage.
Yep.
Then we had 8 white burger baps and 4 veggie burgers. I'm interested to try the veggie burgers because I've never done them. And when you do them, with a good amount of flavour, it'll be interesting to try. But the burger baps seems incredibly simple.
There's no room to hide with something that's that simple.
That's fair, yeah.
You can't hide behind creativity or flavour. You've got to get that right. I'm quite excited to give it a go.
Okay.
So you're probably going to eat some very dense, tiny burger buns this weekend. But I that's a skill I would like to have.
Right.
I don't think it's going to be something that's going to be perfect the first time I do it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I'd like to be able to whip up some burger buns.
Okay. Okay, yeah, it'll be interesting to try.
Yes.
I'm not sure quite what to discuss on them because it was so simple in some ways.
I think we'll have more to discuss when we have had a go and found out it wasn't as simple as it looked.
I think in some ways what the challenge has shown is who has and hasn't practiced things. Who was, right, I'm going to start kneading.
Yep.
And start doing things. And then who was, I don't have a kneading technique. I've been left with extra dough.
Yeah,
so,
Amelia's,
Amelia again.
Possibly Amelia's mental arithmetic
Yeah.
had a failing, which is why she got left with a bit of extra dough.
I wonder if she rounded down to make the division easier or something.
Quite possibly. Yeah. So I'm hoping to give it a long proof.
Okay.
So we have a nice light and open texture.
Nice.
Like Henry. I can't promise that I'm going to make them all exactly the same size. That's not the sort of precision that I have the patience for.
Yeah, absolutely. It feels like something that might take a long time.
I suspect it's something that will have a flurry of activity, leave it to prove for a while, and then bake. Okay.
So is it one... Because I think it's 2 proofs. I think it's a second proof when you cut them into buns.
Quite possibly, yeah. So whilst I think overall it might take a long time, I think some of that will be washing up and waiting time.
Okay, yeah. Get the kitchen nice and square edge again.
Exactly.
Okay. Our last challenge was a display of artistically scored decorative loaves that were themed and with 2 loaves.
Yes, now, two big loaves. 2 big loaves,
yeah. It was really interesting how they made a comment about all the bakers have chosen to do different loaves. Because actually, yeah, the instruction does not say different loaves. But there is an implication when you say 2 loaves that it is 2 of different varieties.
And in past years, they've praised people for variety and challenging themselves. So, like last week, when they didn't clarify how many different types of biscuits you had to make.
Yeah.
You were challenged. You were, I wonder if they are leaving it more open to the interpretation of the bakers so people can challenge themselves.
Yeah.
Or not.
Or
and
not.
be judged accordingly.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. We've had a couple so far that were very artistic heavy. You commented, was it last week with the sculptures maybe? What was the one on the first week? It was cakes. Oh, it was decorated cakes again, wasn't it? Dream birthday cakes.
Yes.
So we had dream birthday cakes, we had the 3D biscuit sculpture, and then we've got this. It's testing much more than just the baking. And it's really interesting how, again, in one of the previous weeks, you've said, everyone's really good at this artistic side as well as the non-artistic side.
And I think to win Bake Off, you have to have an artistic side as well as a baking skill.
It makes me wonder is it something they found people have got as an extra skill over time, which is why it's only just coming into the challenges in quite this way.
Mm.
We've always had one or two, make a picture, make a self-portrait, that kind of thing. But it's interesting, it's every week at the moment. It's to do with the look of the thing.
I wonder if that's a way of differentiating.
Yeah.
Don't know.
Yeah. And yeah, so they spent a lot of time judging them on the display, on that decoration. But they talked a lot about the flavour of it.
Yes.
Not having enough salt, particularly, because it sounded like it was all going to be how it looked.
Yeah. I think you have to have the artistic side to win, but you shouldn't get away from the fact that these are people that are interested in eating as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, how do you feel about that? That you'd have to have a strong artistic bent to be successful? Or do you think it should be about the basic debate, the core skills and the quality of the baking rather than the visual?
I think artistic bent takes it too far almost. So I have always made serviceable cakes, tasty cakes.
Good cakes.
But I spent a year, 3-4 years ago now, where the point was for me to make cakes that took decoration.
Right.
To practice doing feathering, the marzipan on the simnel cake, the chocolate layers on different things, the buttercream layers. I actually went, all right, I'm going to have a year where the cakes that I make, I want to look good once I've done them.
Yep.
And I spent that time practicing that because, yes, it is a fundamentally important part of it.
Right.
The first bite is with the eyes, as they say, and other typical baking-y phrases. But yeah, the way something looks does change the way you feel about it when it's actually served up to you.
I agree.
But artistic is possibly too far.
Mm.
However, there are some people in this tent who are very, very good at this stuff.
Yeah.
Rosie's looked wonderful.
It really
Steph's
did.
was a really good design. That fire was a great design. And yes, when I saw Phil's, I went, well, that's pretty simple. What would I have done? I have no idea.
Yeah. Because
I'd have done loaves with superhero signals on the top to make a Justice League of loaves. Clearly, that's what I would have done, wouldn't it?
can you do that? I want a Justice League of loaves.
Can you score floured burger Baps? Probably not.
Let's make them non-scored first. Nice.
Yeah, it's a really difficult one because then what do you choose? Because it has to be something you can do with that sort of line decoration. And I think Rosie's probably looked the best.
It was really
of
good.
All of them.
Really
I
clever.
think
really good.
She had the perspective on certainly that giraffe really well.
Yeah.
That was the bit that stood out for me because it was clearly one of those that, like, it would be a, something you shake flour or paint over or something to give you the outline of it. So maybe she had a stencil already, but she still had to do the scoring.
Oh, it looked great. Really did. For me...
Yeah, I was going to say, what's your thoughts on the decoration and artistic side of it?
What I liked about this one is that whilst it was about the decoration, it was centred around a skill. And they made everyone focus around a particular technical skill in their decoration rather than just going, hey, make something artistic with bread.
Right, yeah.
And so for me, I think having that central do something artistic with bread with this particular key thing in there, this technique in there, for me, I think it keeps it more grounded in the bread and the baking skills than in the art skills.
Yes, that's fair.
And I'm wondering is this a reaction from possibly viewer criticism, if that viewer criticism was aligned to our criticism, that everything was too gimmicky last season. I mean, everything is overstating it, but last season did feel a bit gimmicky.
Yeah.
And there were some things where it was definitely more about art than it was about baking. So I'm wondering if they're trying to, keep themselves grounded in baking skills.
Yeah. That's very fair. And you've reminded me, I'm sure not last season, but the season before. No, that was Nadia. So maybe the season before. There was someone who won who wasn't the best at decorating. She managed to pick up some of it over the season. I cannot remember who it was. And sort of catch up with everyone to be able to decorate nicely. But there were other people who made them more beautiful. But that was the better baker. So I think the show does generally ground it in that. And maybe they're using the challenges to pull it out more. But maybe because the challenge has been having this artistic bent, that's why I think it's a couple of weeks now, I felt a bit,
Oh, it seems too simple.
It seems too simple or undefined.
Yeah.
So, we'll see what comes next week.
Yep.
Catherine.
Matthew.
Can you talk to me about fig rolls?
Oh, can I talk to you about fig rolls?
Hey, can I? I have very little to say on the matter. So I need you to tell me about fig rolls. How did you find making fig rolls?
which stage of the process are we talking about?
Let's get up to the chilling stage.
So at that point, I was like, "This is all right. It's straightforward. No bother. So yeah, the first bit was fine.
Right.
You know, make the fig compote and chill it. Fine.
Okay.
Make the biscuit dough and chill it. Fine.
Fine. Actually fine.
Yeah, actually fine.
That was chilling, not rolling out. Okay,
yeah, not rolling out. No,
sorry.
actually fine. I think actually fine. So I think my biscuit dough, I think it was fine. There were bits where I wasn't sure the stuff was combining as well as I'd like it to in the mixer. I found the bit where you were combining stuff at the very beginning, and it was like, do it for 5 minutes until it's smooth and creamy. I was like, doesn't look all that smooth and creamy to me. But
oh yeah, the butter and sugar. Yeah, I did it for quite a while because I was like,
took a long time.
I wouldn't define this as pale. Creamy, I don't think it ever got to.
No, it definitely wasn't pale. I think the sugar was too dark for
that.
Oh,
no, pale. I did it for a very long time whilst I was doing other stuff,
right.
And it did actually get fairly pale, but you had to keep at it.
Mine didn't. I was like, it's good enough. Crack on. I did a bit of stopping and scraping down the edges to make sure that
it was all
getting combined. So I mean, other than that, I think that bit was fine.
Okay.
Where I struggled was rolling out my biscuit dough.
Okay. So we're going to come to the post chilling in a second.
Okay.
The fig compote bit.
Yep.
I made a mistake doing mine, and I didn't tell you this and it's really hard, dear listener. That we live together. We spent a lot of time together not to discuss this before the point, and there have been a few times we've ended up discussing them, aren't there?
Yes.
That it's like, oh no, I can't tell you that because I need to tell that as a story and thing.
Must not talk unless we're recording each other.
Exactly, because a conversation is just a podcast you don't record. I put the figs in the pan. I put some sugar over them. I put some water over them, and I started boiling it.
Okay.
And the sugar dissolved, so I started boiling it even more. And then I looked back at the instructions, and I was like, "Oh, chopped."
Oh, did you not chop your figs up?
I had very solid figs in there, so I had to get some tongs.
But they must have been so toasty warm.
I had to get the tongs and squeeze out these very soggy figs and chop them quickly and put them back in the pan.
That must have been quite grim.
It was a little grim for someone who doesn't like figs.
Oh, honey.
But it was okay because that was just the sort of sugar melting point, and it was just the beginning of the boiling. So I think I sort of rescued it.
They certainly didn't taste bad. They tasted fine.
But the eventual bit of my compote was, I don't know whether I boiled it down enough when it was actually in the thing, because that's, I think, the difference when we got there in the end. So
I also had the same fears.
Mm.
I still think mine could have been boiled down a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
But having nibbled on a fig roll just before this recording, still tastes pretty good.
Nice.
So, yes.
Okay, so then you chill it for ages.
Yep.
And I was chilling whilst doing the figs, and then because of the chopping in the bit, the chilling sequence finished whilst I was still getting the stuff on a plate to then chill for that.
Right.
How did you find the post-chilling sequence?
That was a bit hard.
Okay.
It was not the most successful half hour of my life.
Okay. Did you do the half hour and then you just started rolling it out? Or did you do any more chilling, any freezering?
I think I didn't do any freezering.
Okay.
I think I probably chilled the biscuit dough for maybe 40 minutes.
Okay.
Because I wanted to do a row of my knitting before I did the second half of the bake.
Queen of all the crafts.
Yes. So yeah, I think the biscuit dough was probably chilling for about 40 minutes.
Okay.
The filling, the figgy filling, maybe 10, 15.
Okay.
Something like that. I found rolling the biscuit dough out into a rectangle really difficult.
Okay. Too hard? Too soft?
Too non-rectangular.
Okay.
It just wasn't going to go into a rectangle. It was just kind of and like when I got one bit, I was like, oh, that maybe is about the right length. but the other bit wasn't. And then when I rolled it in the other direction, the length that I thought I was fine also expanded.
Right.
And this was possibly me just being a bit inept. But yeah, I found it very hard to roll. And I think ultimately, I don't think I rolled it out thin enough.
Okay.
I think I'd have been better just to keep rolling and not worrying about too much about the measurements. Rolling down the river. Yeah, no, I didn't enjoy the roll, and then when it came to putting the figgy filling in, I think I put too much figgy. I think there was far too much compote. I couldn't. Also, my compote was a bit too loose, so I couldn't actually make it to a sausage. So in the end, I just kind of spooned it in a sausage-like strip down the middle, and then my biscuit didn't join.
Okay.
So it was a bit of an abject failure.
Okay.
But a tasty abject failure.
Yeah, we'll come to baking in a sec then.
Yeah.
I like that we don't do these technicals to time.
Yeah.
When I started looking at rolling out my biscuit dough, it was still incredibly soft.
Right.
I was surprised at how soft it was.
Right.
So I stuck it in the freezer for a bit.
Okay.
And then took it out, put it on some baking paper, started rolling it out. So as I was rolling it out, I started realising that basically it had stuck to the baking paper, and as I was trying to roll, it was not moving anywhere because it was so stuck. It was in that shape. I wish what I'd done, because I then started lifting it up and making it so it had a bit more flour underneath it, this kind of thing. I wish I'd put a little bit of flour on it, another layer of baking parchment, and then flipped it upside down because I tore bits of it, so I had to try and fix it, and it was just, yeah, that was a skill I think I've learned how to do a bit better.
Yeah.
But being a bit more chilled, I think, helped me in some ways.
Okay.
The compote, exactly the same thing. Yeah, because it was so sticky.
Yeah.
So I did half of it and I put it on a chopping board and started just sort of squidging it together, but there was no sense of being able to roll it into a sausage.
Yeah, that was not happening.
So I chilled that a bit more and chilled some of that in the freezer. Didn't really change it at all. So I managed to get it into a sort of sausage shape on a chopping board, and then got a knife, a big chopping knife, one of your silver one.
Yeah.
Yep. And basically sort of sliced under it and just held it over the biscuit and rolled it down, unsticking it at each stage. Just slowly. This sausage, like, one side goes, then the middle goes, then the other end goes, and then it's stuck again, so you go back to the beginning and work it all off. And eventually getting the sausage onto the biscuit dough.
Oh, well done.
And then rolling that. And putting the water on, rolling it and doing it into the biscuits. And then chopping it into 6.
Yep.
And I was like, okay, so was it 25 centimetres long?
Yeah, something
25
like that.
centimetres long. So I was like, okay. So I want 6. Okay, so that's about 3 centimetres per one. That'll be all right.
What were we saying about Amelia's mental arithmetic?
Yeah, I don't know why I thought that. It would have been absolutely perfect if I'd gone for 4 centimetres, but they all end up a little small.
Meh.
It happens.
It happens.
C'est la vie. But they were sealed. Prodding them with a fork I was worried about, because it made them very, very squished on the few of them. And then you bake them. I mean, they warm for an hour, for 12 minutes, sorry.
Yeah, the baking wasn't a problem.
Yeah. And then they come out and you eat them.
Yes.
So I'm not a fan of fig rolls, is the bit I'll admit here.
Fool.
So I tried one and went, yeah, that's a fig roll. I have no idea if it was a good fig roll or a bad fig roll, and I cannot really compare them. I think the spice, the cinnamon came out on yours, more on yours.
And the ginger maybe a bit.
Did you put ginger in?
You're supposed to put stem ginger in, that's part of the recipe.
Oh, yes, yeah, okay, sorry, I thought you meant ground ginger.
No.
I was cheating, I don't know ground ginger in mine.
Maybe you should have done.
But the spice must flow, so...
Fear is the mind killer.
Can you talk to me about flavours and taste, please?
I think the flavours and taste of these were very nice. They're not quite like shop-bought fig rolls. I don't think they're quite as sugary as shop-bought fig rolls in the middle. They unsurprisingly tasted a bit more natural. A bit figgier. I like the flavour.
Okay.
I like the flavour a lot. I especially like the addition of the syrupy stem ginger in there. I like that ginger flavour. I can't really taste the cinnamon on either of them.
Yeah, the chopping of the stem ginger, how fine did you go?
Meh. Sufficiently fine.
Right, I went fairly fine.
Okay.
I chopped it into half and then slices and then those slices into pieces as well. I feel like I went too much. Because you got chunks of it in yours.
Yeah, I must admit, I quite enjoy having... I mean, they're not chunks, but like maybe every now and then I'll get a half a millimetre squared of enough to really taste the ginger.
Okay, and that's making me feel like perhaps 2 pieces of stem ginger?
I think that would overwhelm it.
Okay.
But I do quite like having the bits that were not quite so... You know, the
Figgy.
Yeah, well, no, not quite. I like the occasional bit of that's a bit of stem ginger there.
Nice.
On my taste palette. I mean, I'm blatantly not going to make them again because why would I spend my time making something that you're not going to eat? But I wouldn't be averse to trying them again.
Okay.
Because I quite like fig rolls.
Perhaps a bit like me with the wagon wheels last year.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, wagon wheels are so cheap. Why would I? But at the same time, it was quite fun, and you want to do it better.
Maybe I will make some more for when I go up north for my dad's birthday, because he seemed very excited
That's
by
a nice idea. Hello,
Yeah.
Mr. K.
Yes, yes.
Any lessons learned? Anything you're pleased to have done in this?
I think lessons learned were roll your biscuit thinner.
Okay.
And
More flour.
More flour.
Peel it up from the thing.
But also, even if you don't roll your biscuit thinner, have a care to how much biscuit you've got to roll before you put your filling in.
Right.
But then this is like me making a burrito, like limiting the filling to an amount that can actually be contained is not my strong point.
Particularly when the filling is the nicer bit.
Yeah,
because the biscuit is very plain.
Well, and that's the thing. It's supposed to be quite a flavourful, intense filling, and you need a plain background.
Yeah.
Basically,
I've been having the thing that I think I had a couple of times last year where I've made something with sugar and butter and tasty flavours, and yet I have no cake to eat because I'm not going to eat the food because I'm not a fan of them. So why would I eat them? I mean, I would be depriving you of fig rolls. So I've had a weekend of like, there must be some cake somewhere because I've made. I have this sort of subconscious.
And we're making savoury buns Baps this week,
which is fine. I will eat them.
Yes.
So I think that will probably stave that off. But it's just this: I've made a thing and I don't have it to eat. So what's going on?
We'll have to decide when we're going to make them.
Well, yeah.
Because actually,
time is short.
Sunday morning, the oven is going to be full of slow roasting lamb shoulder. Just saying.
Slow roasted lamb shoulder on burger Baps. Oh, what an interesting idea, Catherine.
I'm not sure that counts as Sunday roast, but maybe in the evening, eh?
Mr. and Mrs. Vose, welcome to Sunday lunch.
On burger Baps.
Yeah, that's my parents, by the way. I know we're... Anyway, so this week, Amelia left.
Yeah, I was genuinely sad to see her go.
Very nice person. She didn't like cheese.
Yeah, fail.
So it
fail. Get off the show.
It was a death knell at the beginning, wasn't it? Didn't like cheese.
Who doesn't like cheese?
Okay. She doesn't like cheese. She had a very spicy bacon that first round.
Yep.
She did not do good size Baps in the second round, and a very spicy burger.
Yeah.
And then had stuff that had no flavour in the last round.
Yeah. It's funny because I think in many seasons that set of bakes should have been all right third weekend.
Yeah,
This
there would have
season,
been people who had bad weeks. Yeah,
this season everyone, now that Dan and Jamie have gone, this season everyone is solid.
Yeah,
so sorry, Amelia. Bye.
Steph came out as a little bit of a dark horse.
She did good.
She was one I thought would be, somewhere in the middle and, would do okay, but not sterling. And there are a few of them, I think, that we're beginning to see.
Yep.
People who haven't pushed the boat out either way so far.
Yep.
Steph did some, it's like,
Steph
actually, you can see some skin in there.
Yeah.
Alice, having won Star Baker last week, got into a little bit of trouble this week. And was playing up to the camera a little bit.
Yeah.
Maybe. So perhaps was confident following that first one.
Possibly.
And I've talked before, having trouble in early weeks sets you up well for later weeks. So that could stand her in good stead.
Michelle's dropped into the pack.
Yeah.
Given that she won the first week.
Absolutely. But Michael winning.
Perfect.
Fully deserved.
Fully deserved.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, got a handshake. Good on him.
Yeah.
And actually, Michelle's, I was surprised she didn't get a handshake. I think there was one last week that I'm not sure if it was Michelle. There was someone last week where I went, oh, his comments sound like the sort of thing he would give a handshake for. And Michelle this week, he talked very, very positively about and didn't give one. Now, obviously, last year there was a whole thing about
too many
handshake inflation. So maybe he's cognizant of that. And
are we having a handshake recession?
Exactly. I think they did even do a thing that there was superinflation at one point last year.
Right.
I think he made a comment about, the bakers are much improved each year. So, yes, I am giving more handshakes and perhaps I should take that into account to give fewer. So that's what seems to be happening. But Michael's star looked wonderful.
It was very beautiful.
The fire, despite the one bit exploding out, was done very nicely.
Yeah.
And yeah, there were other people. Someone made a comment about the felt tip colouring of them.
Pretty,
and there were a couple that looked like that. His didn't. His actually
Absolutely.
looked decorated really well.
I think he's got a nice balance of it being about the baking, but with a bit of artistic flair, rather than it being just about the artistic flair.
Yeah, but he didn't push it out with the artistic flair. It was a fire.
Yes,
which means you don't have to be precise, and if you don't quite draw it in the right way, if that giraffe hadn't been drawn in quite the right way,
who cares?
It would have looked bad. But the fire, yeah, you can absolutely deal with it.
Clever boy.
I just want to look at what he did on previous weeks to see. Michael did the Highland Cow last week,
yes,
which was fine, but cubist. Lemon and rosemary shortbread. And the first week he did the treasure chest.
It was good.
That we liked, but I've got minus flavour on it.
Okay.
So the baking needed to be shored up there. So
good
someone
week
who
for
might come in, a very good week, might come in middle of the pack, but maybe this is going to spur him on to be, I could do something here.
Absolutely. The winner of Bread Week has always been quite successful in the past.
Okay.
So.
Is that true?
I believe so. It's something people have said to me
Okay.
on a number of occasions. I shall pass it off as a comment of my own.
I was about to ask you to show you're working.
With no credible sources.
Citation needed.
Busted.
Dairy Week.
Yum cheese.
Dairy Week. What?
Cheese?
I couldn't quite tell what any of the challenges really were.
Well, the technical looked a bit like some kind of old-fashioned egg custard.
Like
but maybe that's
donata,
just my wishful thinking. I like egg custard.
The egg custard tarts are very good.
Yeah. In the final one, it looked like they were making some form of Indian sweets.
Yeah. So that could be interesting.
Yeah.
And the first one's some sort of steamed...
I couldn't tell.
Sponge, maybe? Something? Well, it'd be interesting to find out. Dairy Week could be interesting. I think that isn't one that's been done before.
No.
I wonder if that means lots of butter or something, maybe, on top of milk and in sponges. Any other comments to make about Bread Week?
We're going to eat some bread.
We are going to eat some bread.
Yeah.
You are finally going to get into making the bread
Yay!
that you've been so excited to do all year. So we'll be back next week, where we will talk about our Baps, we'll talk about our dairy stuff, and don't forget to use the hashtag Worth the Calories and for all our other shows on Twitter, and to review us if you want to enter the giveaway. Next week we will talk about who might have possibly won some stuff. Exciting times. See everyone next week.
Bye.